Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast right through until Thursday of next week, recorded on Friday, July the 25th. Let's have a look and see what's happening today with the water vapor satellite map. So where you see the darker areas, less likely to be wet or cloudy, and the brighter areas is where you're going to be seeing the most amount of cloud. Where you see the green, that is the rain radar showing rain falling. And the yellow blobs show heavy falls in there. So we're starting to see some downpours, some rain forming in the Northern Territory. That's going to be drifting eastwards into Queensland, into New South Wales with some thunderstorms. You can see a few thunderstorms just here and there starting to form when we recorded this. Let's have a look at the situation tonight. So this shows the Misery Index temperatures. So where you see the red, tropical airflow, feels warm, feels over 30 degrees. Where you're in the blue shading, and this is going into tonight, it's going to feel closer to zero, or at least just in the single digits. So you'll feel the colder airflow. Where else it's grey or black, temperate weather, we don't necessarily feel that it's hot or cold, it's just kind of normal. But you see how the low is sucking down that subtropical or tropical airflow as it mixes with the colder one coming in behind it. Perfect recipe for those severe thunderstorms. That's why we're seeing that risk coming in to parts of Queensland, even though the low itself is quite a long way away. Windy ahead of the low, windy behind it as well. It's quite a deep low pressure zone. But for now, eastern areas are calmer due to high pressure. Tasmania warmer due to northerlies. So here is the thunderstorm risk. This is coming into tonight. Thunderstorms likely, possibly severe in the red and orange shading. So that's quite a large portion of Queensland going into tonight, and some parts even coming into New South Wales. The areas in yellow here around South Australia, the risk of an isolated thunderstorm. And even if you don't get the thunderstorm, you may just get a downpour of rain that's kind of windy and squally, hail possible. And so even these areas in yellow don't always have to have a thunderstorm, but you can get the same type of downpour or shower as a result of that. So here's this evening, 9:30 Central Time, low pressure right over the top of South Australia, at least over Kangaroo Island and coming into Adelaide. So you've got a number of areas of windy weather. You've got the big southerly change behind the centre, strong westerlies inland. And then you've got to the east, the big strong northerly flow with gale force gusts that will get stronger in some places as that low moves in and interacts with the big high out here pretty much over the top of northern rivers, keeping winds light in the southeast of Queensland before the windy weather comes on through. And another high coming into Western Australia also helps put the squeeze onto those southerlies. So this low is being squashed on both sides, and that ramps the winds up, southerlies, northerlies, and the westerlies inland. So let's have a look at the wind map here. 4 o'clock in the morning, overnight tonight, Eastern time. You can see these areas in red, just sort of bubbles of red, and even some purple here coming further down into Victoria. So windy weather, but it's gusty and it's patchy. So if you're in a valley that's exposed to it, you'd be seeing wind gusts of 70 to 100 kilometers an hour, and maybe not far away, it could be quite calm. So you've got very strong winds followed by very calm weather right next to it. Classic winds going over ranges and mountains. And you're seeing that all the way along the Great Dividing Range, the Victorian Alps. And then on the other side and into like Ceduna area and other parts of South Australia, it's more of a solid wind coming straight off the sea. That's a bit more consistent. That's why you're seeing more of that red kind of spread out evenly and not as bubbly as what you see around other areas. So Saturday afternoon, severe weather risks in quite a large area, but not everyone in this box has severe weather themselves. But we see severe thunderstorms. Queensland, New South Wales. Heavy rain into Victoria, turning to heavy snow higher up. Around parts of Tasmania, some heavy rain could also be coming in to the northeast as the low itself starts to come on through. And then on Western Australia's side, not really a risk of severe weather. Winds are calming down, high pressure right over the top of Kalgoorlie, so there won't be a lot really to talk about. Colder nights though, are quite likely there. So the windy weather on Saturday afternoon, still in the same kind of area, still that windy weather straight off the sea, still got windy westerlies further north and inland, and again along the ranges, these gusty sort of areas, which are pretty much right up into the hills and ranges. The further you go towards the coast, not as windy, although maybe around Sydney it might be a wee bit as those winds still come over the hills. Now Sunday afternoon, severe thunderstorm risk continues in the southeast corner of Queensland. Westerly winds get stronger the further down or further southward you go through New South Wales. Severe weather risks are fading away as we go through Sunday, but still maybe some gusts going over gale force in South Australia and maybe some parts of Victoria. They're starting to ease though, but we're still seeing some heavy snow up around the Victorian Alps, maybe even getting close to the hills around the ACT, and low pressure over Tasmania brings some instability. And then you jump over to the west coast and look, there is the next southerly front, quite a big one coming in right up to Geraldton. You'll be feeling that wintry change come through by the end of Sunday, and maybe some thunderstorms, the heavy kind of rain once more coming through, although warmer on the other side with the northerlies blowing through. So let's have a look at the next wind map. Not a great deal of severe weather in this one, but it's just highlighting again these areas in red that are showing up, gusts to gale force, and quite a large windy area here behind that low pressure zone, more of a solid wind coming in, but probably not too problematic for most of you. So just more highlighting windy pockets, but not necessarily severe. Monday, severe weather risk in the southwest corner of Western Australia. That cold, wintry southerly still blowing through, thunderstorms, some squally showers, and another low starting to develop there. And of course, on the other side of it, northerlies blowing through, but it's still a bit cold for Victoria, still wet as well, especially around the hills, the ranges, and on the southern coastline, getting more of that wet weather. Not so bad in Tasmania, but your temperatures will be down, and not a lot really happening up in the tropics. From a wind gust point of view here on Monday afternoon, once more along the Great Dividing Range from Brisbane all the way down to Victoria, gusts getting up to or around gale force as we go through the day, sort of in that 50 to 65 kilometre an hour range. But elsewhere, a little bit windy, but really nothing too much. The next burst of potentially damaging winds is here on Monday night, coming into Western Australia between Albany and Esperance. Not 100% locked in. The placement of the centre of the low will matter, but a narrow area of damaging winds, which fades out pretty quickly once you go inland. Coastal areas, just keep an eye on that one for Monday. Now here is the Tuesday setup. You can see that severe weather box still there, heavy rain, thunderstorms. Wintry weather, or at least colder airflows, remain stubborn in South Australia and sort of comes back into the southeast corner. Maybe seeing some thunderstorms around New South Wales as well, and the heat in the north sinking down a little bit further here as those northerlies push it down. Doesn't really do much though, but on Wednesday it does encourage maybe a few more of these showers, which could be thunderstorms. This is the main risk for thunderstorms. I think it's in New South Wales on Wednesday. Wintry southerlies coming in behind, or southeasterlies. So it's not necessarily stormy, it's not necessarily freezing cold, but if you're south of that blue line, you probably notice that it is colder still. So temperatures will still be down, dry up here, not talking much about the northwest side of Western Australia, southeasterly winds, low humidity, dry skies for you. Our final map for Thursday shows a few things. Stormy south of Australia still, no end in sight just yet. High pressure belt broken up, there's a high over the Indian Ocean, a bit of a gap coming into Western Australia. Another system in here, pretty weak, high pressure zone just sitting through in that area there, anticyclonic winds going around that, and then a southerly coming into the southeast. So still wintry. That blue line goes into Queensland going into Friday, which means frosty weather comes back up there again, and really the next big low pressure zone heading off towards New Zealand. So a few moving parts in the Australian forecast. I'll be back again on Monday with the very latest, and keep up to date with the Bureau of Meteorology. They may have some weather warnings out over the next few days. That's all from me. Have a great weekend.